not when we want to pass the message.
The Dada's Show is back, a show where women get to be themselves and discuss real issues.
She cannot allow other women to come in the same space because she's getting different privileges from men. So akiona mwanamke, ako like, this is a competitor.
This being an election year, we have given an opportunity to women to express themselves and share their expectations during this critical moment in our country.
The issue of corruption and how it has impacted women and children in this country.
Create jobs for the informal sector, create jobs for the youth who leave the universities.
Hatutaki bora uongozi, tunataka uongozi bora.
Keep your heels, head and standards high. Dadas, coming soon.
For the financial year 2022-2023. What does it entail? All that will be coming up in not too long, courtesy of Madam General herself, Regina Manyara. But I am Jane Wamboy. Welcome to the program. Regina, leo uko katikati. Today is the day. I mean, so many people have been waiting to just get a glimpse of this budget from 3.1 trillion to 3.2 trillion. What can we expect?
There's so many, the varied expectations, yes, Jane. You know, the 3.3 trillion budget looks so unattainable given, you know, we have the COVID situation and also Kenyans are decrying the high cost of living. Among the expectations that Kenyans are having is that, you know, in this budget, at least there'll be a review on, you know, the taxes on essential goods, especially that, you know, around, you know, household items and consumables at a time when Kenyans are saying, you know, it's getting out of hand. Life is becoming too expensive. And also the issue of youth unemployment. This is something that was factored in the previous budget, 2021-2022.
Yes.
And Maki, we are reading this budget 2 months earlier. Why? Because it's a transition year. We are having our general elections in August, and President Uhuru Kenyatta had to have, you know, penned or rather signed in some few laws that would allow, you know, disbursement of funds in as far as budgetary allocations are concerned to ensure that government duties, so to speak, run even as we are transiting from his tenure to the new government. This is actually divergent from what we'll see from other IALA members, or rather within the EAC, but it is within the law given where we find ourselves. So when you talk about expectations, Kenyans are looking forward to find out if the government will consider their plight when it comes to the matters of high cost of living, while investors on the other hand will be looking at, you know, taxes. Are we expecting new taxes, especially when it comes to the corporate tax? Remember, in the finance bill 2021 actually, there were a few changes in the income tax bracket, and this affected even corporate tax. So investors, this is where analysts will tell you investors are adopting a wait and see, first of all, because we lack an astute tax policy. It is very uncertain. It changes like over this financial year that we're talking about, that is going to be terminating in June 30th. We have had 3 changes, 3 sets of taxes that have been overhauled in Parliament, you know, after stakeholders raised issues and concerns that, you know, having them in place, like the withholding tax, you know. So now experts have been calling, Jane, to have a tax policy that is firm, that is harmonized, that investors can you know, or rather even businesses can plan around. As we speak, well, things are as fluid as the wind blows. So there's so much expectations ahead of 3 p.m. today, where Ukur Yatani is said to be presenting the 3.3 trillion shillings budget. And KBC Channel 1 is on hand and on site to keep you updated on, you know, what Kenyans are saying, what are the expectations of the leaders, as well as what is really contained in Ukur Yatani's briefcase. Good morning once again. This is Good Morning Kenya. Mpenzi mtazamaji, karibu kiti tukujulishe yajayo. Doreen.
When you speak particularly on the taxes bit, and just like every other Kenyan, this is really an area whereby we expect to listen to what the CS will say. But again, also, when you've been listening to a good number of economists, and particularly also those that sit in the budget committee in Parliament, that will tell you it's good to be hopeful, but don't put your expectations high. Why? In this 3.3 trillion budget of financial year 2022-2023, we have a deficit of over 800 billion Kenyan shillings, whereby this needs to be financed. And ultimately, it means that either we're looking at domestic forms of financing or even international. And when we look at international, remember that as of last year, December, our debt was captured at 8.2 trillion. Still talks of trying to increase that to a further 12 trillion. And obviously what that means again is the perhaps question of proposal of new taxes. So yes, even as we await that, will they talk about taxes, or better still, how are we going to finance this budget altogether, and particularly even the deficit that is in there in this budget? So even as we talk about expectations, there's clearly a lot, and also that is what we shall be doing here. We shall be heading over to the streets to try and listen in to what Kenyans have to say, particularly in terms of what exactly they expect to hear the CS Treasury say, and also which areas will be allocated more money. Regina, you've mentioned the high cost of living. We cannot forget about the ravaging drought, particularly in the northern part of the country, and the issues of unemployment, as you have mentioned there. We also still are grappling with the cases of fuel. So again, these are just some of the things that we expect to hear what Kenyans have to say, even as this budget is being presented, and which areas particularly they would want to see more money allocated, and why this area. So that is also what shall be focusing on this morning. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Arange Okello.
You can trust and believe today is all about keeping you updated with all that will be happening in regards to the budget. And of course, we welcome you to share with us your thoughts, your expectations. You know, if you have any comments or you're just seeking clarifications in regards to this particular budget, feel free to interact with us. We are using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. Our individual handles are at Ray Manyara, at Doreen Arange, and at Jane Wamboy. GMK News Brief is up next.
Tuning in, this is Good Morning Kenya on Budget Day, which happens to be the 7th of April 2022. Glad that you could make time. I'm Regina Manyara. We are also streaming live on our various social media platforms, so get on board. Now we start off with matters of the budget, where expectations are high among Kenyans that this year's budget will focus on reducing the cost of living and stimulating economic activity, as the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani unveils the details of the 3.31 trillion shillings budget today at 3 p.m. This year's budget is being presented 2 months earlier than usual so that MPs authorize it before the 12th Parliament is dissolved on 10th of June.
All eyes will be on the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani as he presents his last budget under the current administration. Yatani is expected to navigate a distance of 650 meters between the Treasury building and Parliament with his iconic briefcase to present the biggest ever budget of 3.31 trillion shillings. Kenyans are hoping that this year's budget will focus on reducing the cost of living that has worsened in recent months, straining many households' budget.
Namuhimiza waziri wa fedha Ukur Yatani aangazie sana common man.
Ikiwa umeshaongeza ngano na maziwa hakuna na unga ya sima hakuna, na michele imeongezeka, tutakufa njaa.
The prices of essential commodities such as milk, wheat flour, bread, cooking oil, cooking gas and fuel have increased. This has forced many households to dig deeper in their pockets, as well as cut off some commodities from their shopping lists as they wait the government to ease their burden. This year's budget is expected to spell out new tax measures to finance the budget. Kenya Revenue Authority is expected to collect 2.1 trillion shillings amid an outcry of high taxation by Kenyans and businesses who hope the CS will announce tax relief measures as well as subsidy programs and stimulus packages to check inflation. It will be a tough balancing act for the CS, who will be tasked with budgeting for the upcoming general elections and the escalating cost of living.
Indeed, a tough balance there, and we're open to your feedback. What are your expectations ahead of the budget presentation this afternoon at 3 p.m.? Get tweeting. Our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1. Mine is at Ray Manyara. Now, the 2022-2023 budget that is projected to be 3.3 trillion shillings will be read against a backdrop of increased cost of living as prices of basic commodities surge. With the prevailing micro and macro environment, the National Treasury plans to roll out new subsidy programs and stimulus packages to check inflation and address the high cost of living.
The National Treasury has subsidized fuel since June last year to mitigate against escalating global fuel prices. In the 2022-2023 financial year budget, it is expected the subsidy program will continue as global fuel prices increase. The energy and infrastructure sector will be allocated 364.3 billion shillings in this year's budget, and a significant amount of this allocation is expected to replenish the subsidy fund that the Ministry of Energy says has been exhausted.
Where that there is a subsidy agreement that the government entered into with the oil marketing companies to try and subsidize these costs so as to maintain the pump price. But then you must have seen that this subsidy program has not worked very efficiently. And there are a lot of pending bills to the oil marketing companies. And what they are grappling with, do we increase the prices to cover the costs?
The allocation is also expected to assist in finalizing the second phase of easing electricity prices in the country. Under the power tariff reduction plan, Kenya Power will have to forego 24 billion shillings annually in revenue shortfall, with Kenya Power urging the National Treasury for funds to bridge its shortfalls.
And we are now just about to begin the actual renegotiations. We believe that we'll get some efficiencies in that area, and that will reflect to the end user as a tariff reduction.
About energy, increasing costs in production of energy, then the issue of inflation automatically will come in. Because you can actually see all these matters are interrelated. All sectors of the economy are pegged on energy.
Agriculture has been allocated 64 billion shillings, with the billions of shillings allocated to fertilizer subsidies to reduce the cost of food production. The Agriculture Ministry has said in the past that it needs 30 billion shillings to subsidize fertilizer imports in the country.
We would require a total of that 1 billion. 851, 916,000 if we were to take those prices that prevailed at some point in time.
The subsidized fertilizer will target the next planting season during the short rains in August and top dressing the current crop. Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukuri Yatani is also expected to make pronouncement on policy measures to lower the cost of animal feeds, which has gone up by more than 40% in the last 1 year. The government has so far zero-rated import of yellow maize and soya beans to lower the cost of animal feeds. Due to the ongoing drought, the government is expected to subsidize crop insurance for 1.45 million farmers to cushion them against crop failure. Arid and semi-arid areas will receive 7.1 billion shillings to deal with the ongoing drought. To cushion the old and the vulnerable, the government has set aside 10 billion shillings under the Inua Jamii Safety Net targeting 2 million people.
That is Benson Rioba just putting us on notice on what the budget statement has in store in as far as the budget is concerned, but all this is going to be confirmed this afternoon at 3 p.m. Now, still keeping up with the budget, the Green Thinking Action Party of Kenya leader Isaac Kalua Green is calling on the government to rethink the plight of the common man as National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani tables the budget today. Kalua expects this year's budget to focus on job creation and reducing the prices of basic commodities. His sentiments were shared by others in leadership positions who expect the budget also to focus on reviewing policies on agriculture, energy and taxes.
It is set to be read tomorrow. Leaders from various sectors are hoping the budget will have reforms in key sectors.
The moment we keep telling the common person about very complicated issues, I think it is not going to help anyone. We need to face the reality. People cannot afford food. Prices of oil are going high. This is a situation that is not a quick fix situation. With the war that is in Ukraine and Russia, we need to be able to deal with issues that will place food on the table.
Agriculture is a big player in our economy, and it continues to attract a lot of support from the government, from your taxpayers' money, and so we will continue in the same trend where agriculture will feature well in terms of the support that it will get from the national coffers.
We are hoping that even whatever proportion that we are going to get as the division of revenue for the counties, that it will be available at the right time, because the problem right now is that we are unable to get our own monies at the right time.
So the inflation rate 5.1 to 6.23 is a central bank rate. That is what has been given to us so far, and I think that indicates the direction that we are taking in terms of food prices and non-alcoholic beverages. You know, it is a factor of the consumer price index, the basket of goods that the average person is going to buy. So inflation is moving up, that there is no doubt about. And from a corporate income tax perspective, we just want to see the movement. What are some of these other changes that could be implemented to generate more taxes? One of them being, will we see a sustenance of this issue of interest restriction? Are we going to see a variation of any other income tax proposals that will net in direct taxes?
Most of the leaders are now hoping the budget will take into consideration various measures to mitigate the cost of living. For Prime Edition, I am Teresa Mutai.
Now, the Sports Ministry has been allocated 7.4 billion shillings in the 2022-2023 national budget. This is 1 billion shillings more than the 16.1 billion shillings that the National Treasury allocated to the ministry in the current fiscal year. Recurrent expenditure has been pegged at 1.3 billion shillings, while development vote has been set aside at 16.1 billion shillings. The funds will go towards constructing and renovating new stadia, as well as promoting various sports disciplines in the country. Here's Daniel Wahome with a breakdown of the sports numbers.
In the fiscal year 2021-2022, the Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund docket received a total of 15.1 billion shillings, which was an increase from the 14 billion shillings that was allocated to the sector in the 2020-2021 fiscal year. The National Treasury says the funds will be utilized to renovate and build new sports facilities and nurture sports talent and social arts. The sector is also banking on the sports fund to bankroll the operations of the industry. The fund, which is domiciled within the Ministry of Sport, was introduced in the financial year 2017-2018. The facility draws funding from betting, gaming and lotteries, which is meant to support sports federations, training and technical capacities of Kenyan sports people. Figures from the Ministry of Sport indicate that the fund collected 6.8 billion shillings in the last financial year, which was a drop from the 10 billion shillings collected in the fiscal year 2019-2020. The dip was attributed to the slugging sports activities in the country due to the COVID-19 scourge. The Sports Fund has helped the State Department for Sport to tap into the available funds without meandering through the budgetary hassles to finance national teams, player bonuses and finance sports infrastructure projects. Sports business consultant Felix Ochieng adds that to access the fund, various policy regulations have been developed that federations must adhere to.
It's a daily task, for